Bowman Live. On this program, I try my best to cover as much news that I possibly can. There's a lot going on in the nation and around the world. And sometimes it takes a while for me to get to each news story, but eventually I do get to the stories. So be patient with me as we're trying to get our equipment together, trying to get a real a real studio instead of this makeshift studio that I have that I'm working from. Anyway, we're on the road to getting 2,000 subscribers to Tyrone Bowman Live. Will you help me to become one of the subscribers to the channel? Because you might actually hear something that you might like, and you may even disagree with some of the stories I cover. But one thing about it, they will be covered responsibly, objectively, with truthfulness. All right, let's get down to tonight's headlines here. According to the Washington Post, the headline reads Israeli ban on, I'm going to try to pronounce this acronym. If I don't get it right, be patient with me. So, the Israeli ban on UNRWA takes effect, imperiling aid to Palestinians. So, let's find out what this story is about here. According to the Washington Post, an Israeli law banning the UN Relief and Workers Agency for Palestinian Refugees, known as UNRWA, from operating in Israeli territory took effect Thursday, ushering in a new and uncertain era for hundreds of thousands of Palestinians who rely on the organization for basic services in East Jerusalem, the West Bank, and the Gaza Strip. A twin law also forbids contact between Israeli officials and UNRWA staff members, a prohibition that could severely hinder the agency's ability to make goods and people around, to move goods and people around the Palestinians' territories, where generations of refugees and their descendants rely on the aid. Israel has alleged that 19 of the agency's 13,000 employees in Gaza participated in Hamas's attack on October 7, 2023, a charge that led multiple donor countries, including the United States, to suspend UNRWA's funding. In August, an internal UN investigation found that 9 of the accused may have been involved in UNRWA. Commission General Filippi Lazzarini terminated their contracts. Thank you. Let me get to the story. It's all good. It's all good. But the UN official said Israel did not provide its investigators with the information it used to make the allegations. The evidence obtained was insufficient to support the staff members' involvement, said Farhan Ha, a U.S. spokesman. In the months since Israel's Knesset passed the bills, top UN officials and diplomats from around the world have warned they could have sweeping implications for the economic and social fabric in the West Bank and for the delivery of life-saving humanitarian aid in Gaza, where UNRWA is the backbone of relief efforts. Curtailing our operation now outside a political process and when trust in the international community is so low will undermine the ceasefire, Zarini told the UN Security Council on Tuesday. Members of the council were nearly unanimous in their support for the embattled agency, with the exception of Israel and the United States. Danny Danon, Israel's permanent representative to the United Nations, informed the body that UNRWA would need to cease its operations and evacuate all premises It operates in Jerusalem on Thursday, and that the agency would be forbidden from operating in sovereign Israeli territory. On Wednesday, Israel's Supreme Court rejected the last-minute legal challenge, clearing the way for the laws to take effect on schedule. How exactly Israeli authorities will enforce the legislation remains unclear, as do the answers to key questions, including what the law defines as Israeli territory. UNRWA officials vowed Thursday that the agency would continue to deliver its services in the Palestinian territories for as long as possible. We have not received official communications from the government of Israel on the implementation of the bill, UNRWA Communications Director Juliet Tuma said in an interview. Until then, our plan is to stay and deliver. There are lives of people who depend on the services of this organization. UN Security General Antonio Guterres urged Dannon on Monday to retract the decision in a letter obtained by the Washington Post, arguing that the implementation of the legislation would be inconsistent with Israel's obligations under international law. UNRWA was established in 1949 to assist Palestinian refugees who fled or were expelled from their homes during the First Arab-Israeli War. The sprawling agency provides satellite services, including healthcare, education, and garbage collection, to 5.9 million registered Palestinian refugees living in the West Bank, Gaza, Jordan, Lebanon, and Syria. It is the only UN agency that engages in such extensive provision of direct services. Designed as a temporary stopgap, UNRWA has become a feature of Palestinian life for generations in the absence of a political resolution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The Biden administration criticized the Israeli legislation and repeatedly described UNRWA as indispensable. But the Trump administration made clear this week that it would back Israel's implementation of the laws. UNRWA's work has been tainted and its credibility questioned due to the terrorist ties to Hamas that UNRWA staff were exposed as a result of Hamas's October 7 attack. Dorothy Shee, Chair d'Affaires ad interim for the U.S. mission to the United Nations Social Security Council on Tuesday, she encouraged other agencies to take up the mantle. But other humanitarian organizations like the Infrastructure Funding and Community Relationships to easily take on the role, UN officials and aid groups say. The visas of UNRWA's international staff members based in Jerusalem expired Wednesday, Tuma said, forcing them to leave Israel. The agency has also been informed by humanitarian coordinators that Israel will no longer allow its international staff to rotate in and out of Gaza, according to Sam Rose, director of UNRWA's affairs in the enclave, meaning its international presence there will soon end. Otherwise, though not much has changed, UNRWA's East Jerusalem headquarters appeared deserted on Thursday morning, but the gated compound remains a United Nations facility protected by a UN convention, Tuma said. UNRWA's schools, health clinics, and garbage collection services across the East Jerusalem and the West Bank are still functioning, she added, and the agency continues to deliver humanitarian aid in Gaza, where it has played a key role in surging desperately needed food, water, shelter, and sanitation supplies to displaced and hungry civilians under the Israel-Hamas ceasefire deal. Still, Eric King, deputy mayor of Jerusalem and a fierce UNRWA critic, hailed Thursday as a turning point in Israel's relationship with the agency. He led a small group of anti-UNRWA activists in toasting the new prohibitions with wine and pastries in front of the East Jerusalem headquarters. The Jerusalem municipality has opened new schools and expanded existing schools in East Jerusalem to accommodate the hundreds of Palestinian students enrolled at UNRWA's institutions in the area, King said. Palestinian residents of Jerusalem should seek health care through the Israeli system, he added. The city also intends to begin collecting trash in East Jerusalem refuge camps from next week. As long as the ceasefire holds, meaning humanitarians no longer face the threat of coming under an Israeli attack, there is less need for UNRWA staff members in Gaza to liaise with Israeli officials as they carry out their humanitarian work. Our legislation cannot take actions about what is happening inside Gaza, Dannon told reporters Tuesday. Israel hopes that gradually other agencies will step in to take over UNRWA's functions there, he added. But if international staff members are indeed blocked from entering and exiting the enclave, Rose said, that could force UNRWA services to grind to a halt, because donors may not feel comfortable allowing Palestinian staff members to run activities without international oversight. The agency has also received indications that Israel intends to prevent aid bearing the UNRWA logo from entering Gaza, in which case health clinics, shelters, and other relief efforts would eventually run out of supplies. Rose said more than $100 million worth of UNRWA aid funded by donors is waiting outside Gaza borders to enter, he said. In the occupied West Bank, where 900,000 Palestinians depend on UNRWA for essential services, especially in the territory's impoverished refugees camps, the picture of what might come next is murkier. Israeli officials have implied, but not said explicitly, that the ban would extend there as well. Although they have not presented any details about how the new rules might be enforced, the Palestinian Authority is broke and viewed with suspicion by many residents of refugee camps. It is already struggling to pay the salaries of its current employees. Under international law, Israel, as the occupying power, should take responsibility for the welfare of the civilian population, Tuma said, but it has not indicated any willingness to do so. The Israeli Prime Minister's office declined to comment. Tyrone Bowman, never surrender, never quit.